Today's guest, Steve Schulze. He's grown his company, Nectar Juice Bar, from a startup to now being a company that's in 16 states, and it's now doing over $100 million in annual sales. In your mind, is he qualified to give us tips on how to market and brand a company?
He's very qualified.
$100 million's good enough for you?
$100 million.
Me getting that rap money, holla, she get hollin' if I lie. Many holla, she in my life.
I mean, if he had done 90 million of sales, would he qualify to give us marketing and branding advice?
Oh, 90 million in sales?
Yeah.
That's quite a bit.
What's the threshold for you where somebody becomes an expert? 90 million, 100 million, 110? How much sales does somebody have to do to give our listeners great marketing and branding tips?
I like those numbers. Those are good numbers.
He has 160 locations.
It's quite a bit.
Are you paying attention?
Yep.
Grab a pen, grab a pad.
And get prepared to enter into the dojo of Mojo with Steve Schulze, the co-founder and CEO of Next Juice Bar. Today's show both starts and ends with a bang.
There is no end, because it's a circle.
No, there is an end. It's a podcast.
It's not like a triangle. Triangle has like a corner and the end. This one is a circle.
No, this is a podcast, and it must have a beginning and an end.
Get ready to enter the Thrive Time Show.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here.
We started from the bottom, now we're on the top, teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of five, that's why I'm a dive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the C&Z up on your radio, and now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, and yes. Thrive Nation, on today's show, we are going to have a blasty blast as we interview a man who's so great, it's bizarre. He's the CEO of the Nectar Juice Bar, Steve Schulze. Welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
I am doing excellent. Great to talk to you guys, and hope you're enjoying the day.
Steve, you sound like you smell terrific. What's the key to your success?
I just got out of the shower, so I better smell pretty good.
Okay.
What is the key to success? I think that I think anybody's success really comes down to probably curiosity, persistence, belief in themselves, I suppose.
I am a very curious human. I want to ask you about this. You've had a ton of success at this point, but could you take us back to the beginning, old school, back when you were a young dude? What was life like for you growing up, or maybe where did you grow up?
I grew up in Chicago. Loved Chicago. Watching the Rose Bowl every year. I always knew I wanted to be in California. Met a girl on a summer break that happened to live in Arizona and chased her out to University of Arizona, which got me about 3/4 of the way to the coast. And then once I graduated from U of A, me and a bunch of buddies moved out to California, and there's like 4 or 5 of us living by the beach and had regular jobs, but my regular job didn't last very long. So I think that's the last time I had probably a regular job, I think.
What was your regular job at the time? What job did you have when you were living by the beach?
It's kind of interesting. There's 5 of us. I was selling doors, like steel doors for a living. I don't know who likes to sell doors and stuff, but it certainly wasn't a very exciting job, and I certainly wasn't making very much money, and I certainly wasn't very passionate about it. And as you can imagine. And so I was at the beach with a bunch of buddies of mine and girls and whatnot. And I came back about 4 o'clock and I flipped on the TV, and there was an ad for a tanning bed. I was just laying there, and an ad for a tanning bed came on TV. And I looked at it and I said, I like chicks and I like to be tanned. It's a great idea. I got up in my car, drove up Newport Boulevard, saw a for lease sign, wrote the number down, called a guy named Ladislaw Rade, who was who ended up being the landlord, and he was a travel writer. Signed the lease the next day, called that 800 number on TV, ordered myself some tanning beds. That was, got a small loan from the bank, maybe $10,000, whatever it was. Got some buddies of mine to help me build it, and opened about the first, I think it was probably the first, could have been the second, in Orange County. And started out with 1 salon, and then 2, and then 3, and started growing the business from there.
Now,
I don't think I ever look back as far as going back to work for other people.
I want to ask you this because you, when you saw that infomercial with the tanning bed, and you thought to yourself, "This is cool."
Mm-hmm.
How old were you then?
22.
Did you have long hair?
22, 23. No, at that time it was back in the it was more in the preppy age, so it was more of polo shirts, all that kind of stuff. So,
what year was this?
I was going to the beach a lot. 87.
87. Okay, sweet. So, and then what beach were you at this time? Where were you living?
Newport Beach. We were at 60th Street, Newport Beach. We'd go down to the wedge when some nice waves came in, some red flag, and it'd get pretty steep and pretty nice. So it was quite a time. Stayed, I think, lived with my buddies for like 5 years, all college buddies, and just all jammed in there, having a great time.
Were you a surfer?
No, I body surfed a lot, but I never got around to surfing. There wasn't a lot of surfing in Chicago.
Yeah.
I know my buddies, as it turned out, were a lot better out in California than I was, so I never tried to keep up. And frankly, I got bored sitting there trying to wait for a wave because I'd always miss it. So I just stuck to body surfing because it just seemed quicker and easier to me.
Did
I
you
didn't have the patience to sit out there waiting for the wave?
With your roommates, was there 5 guys living in an apartment? All 5 of you in one apartment?
We were in a house. We just rented a small house, just all kind of jammed in there, just, buying our beer and drinking on the weekends and having girls over, going to the beach. Just, I think, what probably normal people do after college, I think.
What was the craziest event that you 5 had together? The craziest experience that the 5 guys, the you homies had together that you can speak of on a podcast that will be heard by 500,000 people? What's the craziest thing you guys did together before we get into your the businessy kind of stuff?
God, Jesus, we did a lot of stuff together. I think one of the funnest things we did is we decided for kicks, we decided we're going to throw ourselves a birthday party, and we decided to charge people, and we wanted to see how many people we could get to go.
Sweet.
And we made it out in Palm Springs, which is about 2 hours away. And as it turns out, we got 250 people to pay $30 a piece.
Oh.
We hired a band, country band, an open bar, and rented out a hotel. And we took that $30 to go ahead and put people still have to pay for the rooms, but we committed to it. And next thing you know, we had 250 plus people out there for our birthday. So it was kind of fun.
That is awesome. And what was your favorite old school jam at the time? What was your do you have a song, a certain song back there that was hot?
God, it was REO Speedwagon, it was Journey, it was Supertramp. I'd say those were the main, bands at the time. Yeah, that's what we'd be listening to.
So then, after you built this, was it like a salon tanning bed empire? Is that how you would describe what you were doing?
Yeah. So what I did, I built one salon, then a second salon, then a third salon, and then I realized that the barrier to entry was too easy. Everybody was just popping up. My business was getting commoditized. The prices were going down. Just whatever. And then what I found out is, you got to clean that. Somebody lays on that acrylic and get all sweaty, right? So you got to clean it. And as it turns out, acrylic is porous, and after a time, it gets foggy, and it costs $1,500 to replace every sheet because people were going in there and they're putting copper tone on. And so then I thought to myself, I can either try and build 100 of these things, but it's all getting commoditized, or what if I went ahead and developed a lotion that you could use inside a tanning bed? So I developed the first what you call dry oil, and so it basically is a lot of your 50% of the sun and tan that you get comes from the reflection. And so one thing led to another, and I hooked up with the former she's current R&D of Redken, who then turned me on to the former CEO of Vidal Sassoon to act as consultants for me, and which they did, and developed a line of lotions that or oils rather that provided a sheen. So we went from one salon to distribution, probably 10,000 salons in probably 9 months.
Wait, how did you do that? Did you do some serious cold calling? Were you doing mass mailers? What was your primary form of marketing?
The marketing really was direct to the distributors. So what would happen is that, Sally's Beauty Supply and these big beauty houses, people see them as a public, outlet like an Ultra or somebody like that, Sephora.
Yeah.
But the reality is they're selling directly they have a whole team selling to, hundreds of the salons, thousands, tens of thousands of salons around the country. And so once we hooked into those guys, they sold it to the various both sun tanning salons and beauty salons around the country.
How did you hook into those salons? Did you cold call them, or did they find you, or what?
Yeah, no, we cold called them, and I had a whole team of people on the phone cold calling, and some of the business was good, and some for a while business was going up, and it was awesome, and it was exciting, and then I said, you know what, I got to develop an outdoor. I was all, because I had a few successes in a row, and not huge home runs, but successes. But then I decided, what I got to do is I got to develop an outdoor line to sell like in the summer, and I'd go out fishing and stuff like that and get bugs, and so I said, what if I developed a suntan lotion with a bug repellent without any chemicals in it, all natural and organic and such. And so I did. I ended up selling it into Rite Aid, Walgreens, Safeway, all the major chains around the country. I flew all over the country.
Wow.
Called on all the buyers, sold it all in. But the funny thing is by the time you get to December, they tell you how much they want to order. So by the time they ordered, I had about 750,000 bottles committed to. And they'd say, all right, I want those bottles delivered by March 15th. And then they'd say, all right, but we have a guaranteed sale. Our terms are, net 1% September 1st. And I didn't really know what the term meant, even when I agreed to it. But as it turned out, basically, if they paid me by September 1st, they got a 1% discount. But secondarily, the key word there was a guarantee. And so we get to September, and I called the guy up, and he said, oh, you had a pretty good season. You should be getting the check soon, and we've got some of the returns, and one thing led to another, and 2 semis back up with 680,000 bottles of lotion damaged and whatever that didn't sell through, and I got a check for about $50,000, and just, basically about put me out of business.
Wow.
It was just a brutal existence. I didn't realize that basically you sell through, and most suntan lotions, only sell about 20% of what's on the shelf, and it was a brutal learning curve that taught me a lot, which was I never wanted to be, reliant on somebody else to sell my product, and go into that retail space, which is how I, ended up in infomercials and things like that, and direct to consumer.
So now we're going to go into the rapid fire round, which some have said is brutal. So here we're going rapid fire. So get yourself ready. Here we go. How did you get into infomercials?
Met Guthrie Ranker playing golf in Palm Desert.
Okay. How did you go from infomercials to Nectar Juice Bar? How did you make that happen?
I was trying to do an infomercial with a cleanse, and it was too heavy to ship. So I said the only way I can ship a cleanse was by opening up a juice bar.
At what point did you feel like you were gaining traction with the juice bar? Like, at what point did you feel like, okay, I'm actually this might work?
Immediately we thought we were onto something, and it wasn't until maybe a year later that we realized it could have been something bigger than just a small regional product.
So now I'm going to slow it down. Now we're going into the slow. Now we're going into it's a time where we're just going to kind of marinate on this here. You went from a single unit in 2010 to 160 locations in 16 states, nationwide sales of $100 million each year. To what do you attribute this growth?
I think it's I think that the like anything, time and luck, timing, all that stuff, comes into play, and you got to manage things well. But I think that there was a seismic shift, I think, in 2010 from people starting to think about food as medicine and eating healthier, and Trader Joe's and Whole Foods, and people started shopping like that, and so I think that there was a natural appetite for the product that we were providing, and I think that we basically my goal was to reinvent the juice space, in the way Starbucks and Dietrich's and others reinvented the coffee experience. And so I think that we disrupted the space, we gained a lot of national attention, and then we took advantage of it.
Now, I'm not a juice expert, but I'm sure there's 1,000 ways to make bad juice. There's probably 1,000 ways to poorly market the bad juice. What role does a checklist and having documented processes play in the growth of the Nectar Juice Bar? Because I've gone to some juice bars in the past where one location it's good and the other one it's hood. You know what I mean? It's just nasty. What role do the checklists and documented processes play in the scalable success of Nectar Juice Bar?
For the scalable success, absolutely critical. From a local standpoint, I'll tell you a quick story. Really, when we first opened, after about a month or two, I put a sign on the pickup counter where you picked up your juice and said, "Hey, does your juice taste a little bit different today?" And then said, "It should. Mother Nature made it." And it was my way of us screwing up the recipe and getting away with it because each juicer was making it slightly differently. But then I was blaming it on Mother Nature because sometimes apples are sweeter, sometimes they're not, sometimes people make it differently and such. So therefore, when we rolled it out, it was absolutely essential that you cannot scale any business unless you've got the processes and procedures in place, and certainly not a franchised model that's nearly impossible, or you're destined to fail if you don't have processes and procedures in place.
Now, have you ever watched Jerry Seinfeld's show Comedians in Cars, Grabbing Coffee?
Yes. Sure.
Well, on his show, he talks about how some of his shows are 30 minutes long and some are 45 minutes, some are 15. It just depends. If it's okay with you, may we go a full 30 minutes with you? Is that okay?
Sure.
I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated with this story. This is fabulous. So a lot of business owners say, "Clay, I don't have time to make processes. I'm too busy making juice. They kind of sheepishly say, I don't have time to make systems. But then almost angrily, I'm too busy making juice. What would you say to the entrepreneurs out there that say, I don't have time to make the processes. I'm too busy making juice. What would you say to them?
Well, you shouldn't. I've never made a freaking process in my life, and to be honest with you, I've yet to make a smoothie or a juice ever. So what I do is I hire people to write the processes for me. I'm not very good at it, and so I wouldn't. So something I'm not good at, I always hire somebody that is good. I think that that's what most people do that are successful is they recognize that where their skill set is, and where it's not, you try and fill in the gaps. Hire people that are smarter than you, and hire people that know what you don't know.
How
as far
much
as the process procedures, same thing.
Now that you've hired high quality people that build processes and do some of the marketing and that kind of thing, what do you feel like is the most, or what do you know is the most effective form of marketing for your company, for Nectar Juice Bar?
Oh, I think consistent branding. I think everything's gone digital, and everything's about a story. I think we're spending a lot more time. People will listen to a story. They won't listen to messages. You can't make it too. One of the biggest mistakes people make in advertising and marketing. I learned this in infomercials, and I learned it in direct marketing. The pretty stuff doesn't sell. You got to punch people in the face. The message has to be simple, and you've got to be able to understand it in half a second or less. And a lot of these graphic designers, a lot of these advertising agencies, they want to make it beautiful. And you make it beautiful, you're not going to sell a thing. So when you brand something and market something, you want it to stand out for people to understand it in literally an instant. If you can't do that, then throw it in the trash.
That is good stuff right there. So the marketing has to be simple. It has to stand out. It has to punch people in the face with the aggressiveness. I mean, that is hot stuff. Now, I don't mean this in a patronizing way, but I just want to know, because have you been really watching the news with this whole coronavirus panic shutdown stuff? Have you been watching this a lot, or how have you been digesting this coronavirus stuff?
I've certainly watched it, and it's had a tremendous impact on us and everybody. Frankly, I'm a little frustrated by it by now. I think that now it's become too political. I think that it's become a political and media volleyball going back and forth, and I think it's a lot of it's just gotten out of control. I think it's a very serious thing, but I think that we got to start opening the economy up here in the next month or so, and the devastation this has done to the economy is just brutal.
I'm going to walk the listeners through the timeline of the coronavirus real quick, and I want to get your take on this. Neil Ferguson is the director of the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute for Disease and Emergency Analytics at the Imperial College in London. He's the guy who came out with the report that said 2.2 million Americans might be at risk of dying from the coronavirus and 500,000 British people. He's now dialed down his predictions to 61,000 to 57,000. So again, if you were projecting the sales of Nectar Juice Bar, and you said, Clay, we might do this year 2.5 billion of sales or 100 million. I mean, that's quite a, it's when you're off by 25 times. I mean, there's something to be said there. But then Dr. Deborah Birx, who is the lead, she and Dr. Fauci are on this appointed team of people that are trying to help protect us from the coronavirus. I just want to play this audio for you real quick so you can hear this. This is her talking about the report from Mr. Neil Ferguson.
UK and 2.2 million deaths
Let me
in
go
the
back
United
just a second here.
Their needs. This is really quite important. If you remember, that was the report that said there would be 500,000 deaths in the UK and 2.2 million deaths in the United States. They've adjusted that number in the UK to 20,000. So 500,000 to 20,000.
So again, they were off by 25 times, okay? So they recommended President Trump, hey, let's shut down the economy. And President Trump says, okay, governors, you can do what you want to do. A lot of them thought that the First Amendment right to peaceably assemble maybe should be compromised to quarantine us from the virus. Whether we agree with it or not, here we are. How has the coronavirus shutdown impacted Nectar Juice Bar?
Wow, it's hit us tremendously. And if I or anybody in my company was off 25 times on their projections, what would the bank do? If I gave the bank a projection was off by 25 times, I'd never get a loan again, and I'd be out of business, and I'd be laughed off the stage. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I think it's become too political. I think as far from a sales standpoint, we are basically off about $250,000 a day.
Jeez.
In business. So obviously that impacts me. We've got franchise partners that put up their life savings that had just opened and have loans at the bank and leases with landlords and employees that they just got trained that they're going to have to rehire and retrain new employees. This has just been devastating to people. And I think that the economic impact is going to be worse than the virus itself.
Have you listened to Dr. Scott Jensen, the Minnesota senator? Have you listened to his commentary about the coronavirus?
I've heard some of the stuff coming out of Minnesota and read some of the statistics about the, every time I turn around, they've got big numbers coming out of Minnesota, and it ends up being, these, pre-existing conditions out of a senior living center, XYZ. But I haven't heard what this particular guy said.
I want to play this audio for you, and I just want to ask you this. If I come in today to Nectar Juice and I buy a typical, say I'm a typical buyer, and I buy a beverage, how much does that cost me, a typical beverage?
$5, $6.
Okay, and I'm just making up a number. But let's say you make a 20% profit margin. Okay, I'm just making it up. I'm not saying you did, but let's just say you did. So let's say you make $1. This is Dr. Scott Jensen from Minnesota, the senator. He decided, you know what we're going to do? He says, I'm going to figure out how much money a hospital makes every time that someone gets diagnosed with the coronavirus, because he's a doctor, So let me play this audio to you, and this will blow your mind. Listen to this. This will blow your mind. Here we go.
Well, in short, it's ridiculous. I spent some time earlier today just going through the CDC's manual on how to complete death certificates and the parts that were specifically written for physicians. And in that manual, it talks of precision and specificity, and that's what we were trained with. The determination of the cause of death is a big deal. It has impact on estate planning. It has impact on future generations. And the idea that we're going to allow people to massage and sort of game the numbers is a real issue, because we're going to undermine the trust. And right now, as we see politicians doing things that aren't necessarily motivated on fact and science, the public's their trust in politicians is already wearing thin.
So what do you say to Dr. Fauci tonight?
Well, I would remind him that anytime healthcare intersects with dollars, it gets awkward. Right now, Medicare has determined that if you have a COVID-19 admission to the hospital, you'll get paid $13,000.
Okay, they get $13,000 from the government every time that they check the box that you have coronavirus. Now, I happen to know two people firsthand who were diagnosed over the phone via telemedicine with the coronavirus. And they went in for a test later because they felt so good within a week. And they just wanted to make sure that they weren't putting people at risk. This was kind of early on. And both of them, one, his name is Jeff Hawley, has a company called Boom Mobile, and the other one is a young lady. Both of them, they determined they did not have the coronavirus. However, the hospital still got their money. What do you think about that? Are you down with $13,000 per admission? Is that a good rate in your mind? Is that a good fair deal?
No, I would. Hospitals in general aren't really built to make much money. It's just the system is so messed up. As far as what the doctor in Minnesota was saying, I agree with him. I think he's dead right. I mean, Dr. Fauci and all this other crap to think that you've got stage 4 pancreatic cancer and you're 89 years old, and all of a sudden you check the box that you died of coronavirus. Give me a break. I mean, that's just they're gaming the numbers. You take that number down to the 51 or 57,000. Now all of a sudden you take up the number that actually died of the actual, legitimately died of the COVID virus. Who knows whether we'll ever get to the bottom line of it? And it's become a economic tool. It's become a political tool. It's Trump. It's Fauci. It's all these guys. I think it's just pure nonsense. Not nonsense. It's a very serious thing. And certainly it's something that needs to be done for a period of time. But it's gone way beyond that. And everybody now is gaming the system all the way around.
Well, Steve, if you get a chance, I'll give you a little gift here. You might want to check it out tonight. It's thrivetimeshow.com/coronavirus. And what I did on this page on thrivetimeshow.com/coronavirus, I gathered all the facts and I cite everything. So you're going to see cited statistics from New York Times, which is obviously left of center, from Fox, which is obviously right of center, from Bloomberg, that's in the middle. But when you click on these articles, it's mind-blowing. So New York Times just reported, now obviously they're left of center, they just said that people are essentially no longer dying of heart attacks right now or strokes. It seems like the coronavirus is curing all of the strokes and heart attacks. Now, the same number of people are still dying in the country. They're just not dying from heart attacks. They're just all dying from the coronavirus. The city of Tulsa that I live in, the hospitals are so busy that they laid off a large percentage of the employees who work at the Hillcrest Hospital. I mean, you're right about the politicizing of this whole thing. But if someone says, listen, buddy, I know this economy is going to open up here on May 1st, and I just want to go get myself a freaking juice. I want to get a good juice. I want a juice that's healthy. What is your website, and where can people buy the juice?
They can just look it up at either at Instagram at Nectar Juice Bar or nectarjuicebar.com, Nekter, juicebar.com. We're in about 170 locations and number of Whole Food stores we're starting to take over, and we enjoy it. But it's going to take time to build back that business. We're not there. All these poor folks that got laid off, it's going to be slow to hire them back, and some of these guys are going to have to look themselves in the face or look themselves in the mirror and be honest with themselves, and I don't think they ever will, but they should.
You can't just start and stop your business like the communist Chinese do. You can't just do that.
Well, some of these guys think you can. You look at these guys on TV, and they think, start's going to. It is pure insanity at this particular point. So, it's bad for the economy, bad for all these poor people that don't have jobs. It's just an unfortunate situation. But with that said, you got to make the most of it. You got to compartmentalize certain issues within your life, which I try and do, and you got to look in the positive and move forward. So when I talk about it, I'll tell people what I think, but for the most part, I put that to the side and try and plan for what the new normal is going to look like, and try and budget and plan and forecast, to the best of our abilities.
Can I order Nectar juice from you online? Do you do that, or do you sell any online stuff, or does it not work out that well? Or
but it depends on what your question is. But a lot of I'm going to answer it two ways. One is we do a tremendous amount through DSP, delivery service providers. Postmates. That's short for what the Postmates, DoorDash, all those guys.
Yeah.
So a tremendous amount of our business is that. We have an app. We do a ton of orders, through the app, and we used to ship a lot back in the day, but we used to ship 5,000 bottles, 3,000 bottles, 10,000 bottles a week, give or take. But now it's become more of a commodity, and people will go into a local juice shop, so we don't really ship as much as we did anymore, and it's also very expensive to ship heavy liquid like that. So.
Well, brother, I appreciate you for joining us today, for bringing positivity, but also shooting us straight. We've had so many entrepreneurs on the show, and it seems as though pretty much every entrepreneur who's ever had to balance a budget and who's aware of how capitalism works has issues with the over-politicized shutdown here. And I know it's not fun to talk about it because you don't want to alienate any customers. You're not trying to make light of what, could be a threat to someone's life. But I appreciate you sharing with us, your facts, your truth, your story. And I cannot thank you enough for being here tonight.
Hey, I really appreciate it. I'll check your stats tonight. I'll be very interested to look at them, and really appreciate your time.
Hey, take care. And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom!
Boom. Boom. Boom.
What if you could gain access to download each and every book that I've ever written for free?
Well, that'd be terrible, because I don't like you.
Okay, we're making a big assumption here. But assuming that you do like me and you like the Thrive Time Show, you can now go to thrivetimeshow.com/free-resources. That's thrivetimeshow.com/free-resources to download each and every book that I've ever written for free. You can download the ebook version of each and every book that I've ever written for free.
Clay, I just want to chime in here real quick. I don't like you or capitalism. I feel like we should all get free stuff.
Well, I am in the process of explaining where you can get free stuff. And you can now also download all the helpful infographics. There's infographics on Firing 101, the perfect hiring system, the principles from Ray Dalio, Internet Marketing 101, the Lead Bin Management System, Managing Humans 101, Logo Creation 101, Why Google Loves WordPress, Time Management 101. We also have an incredible infographic about the importance of calling your leads often, because the average person no longer answers their phone unless they are called multiple times and unless they receive a text from you. We also have the importance of File Nomenclature 101, Sales Lead Conversion 101, and much, much more. And it's all available for you to download for free right now by going to thrivetimeshow.com.
Are you suggesting that I should have to move my body?
Yes.
This is for free. Isn't there a way you could just beam it? I mean, why do I have to move my body?
Because
typing causes me anxiety.
Whatever.
Which is why I would never go to thrivetimeshow.com.
Come on.
/free-resources. I would never go to thrivetimeshow.com. /free-resources.
All right, let me clarify. If you have the capacity to move your fingers, go to thrivetimeshow.com /free-resources to download an ebook version of every single Amazon best-selling book I've ever written and all the infographics that have the power to change your life.